Hello friends, this is Snigdha Kakad and this is my channel AccelerateAICareers. Today we'll be doing LeetCode question 38, which is count and say. This is a medium level LeetCode question and has been asked in Amazon and Google interviews. What does this question say? First of all, I'll explain you the concept behind the question and why does it matter how we'll solve it. And then I'll walk you through the code. You can code alongside me. If you have any questions, just ask me in the comments and I'll be able to address it. So the question says, the count and say sequence is a sequence of digit strings defined by the recursive formula. Count and say 1 is 1. So this is our base case. In that case, if your input n is 1, then your output would also be 1. Count and say of 1 is 1. So this is your base case. So, and count and say n is the run length encoding of count and say n minus 1. That is the run length encoding of previous result. What is run length encoding? I will explain it with an example. So say suppose your n is just given as 1. If your input is 1, your output is also 1 as your base case says. Suppose your n is given as 2. If your n is given as 2, then the output should be the run length encoding of count and say of n minus 1, that is count and say of 2 minus 1, that is count and say of 1. Your count and say of 1 is 1, right? So how will you calculate the run length encoding of count and say of 1? So you will check the number of digits getting repeated. So here 1 is getting repeated only once. So the number of times 1 repeats is 1. And what's the digit getting repeated? It's 1. So that's your count and say of 2. Okay. So now say suppose your n is 3. In that case, you will again be looking at the prior one, which is 11 right now. Here, the digit 1 is getting repeated 2 times. So the number of repetitions is 2. And what's the digit getting repeated? 1. So this is your result for n equal to 3. Now say suppose n is equal to 4. Now here digit 2 is getting repeated only once. That means the count of repetition is 1. And what's the digit? It's 2. And then again, what's the number of repetitions? 1. And what's the digit? So this is your run length encoding for n equal to 4. Now say n equal to 5. Again, you will look at the prior number. So in 1, 2, 1, 1, the digit 1 is getting repeated once. So number of repetitions 1. And what's the digit? 1. Digit 2 is getting repeated once. So number of repetitions 1. And what's the digit? 2. And again, number of repetitions is 2, digit is 1. So number of repetitions 2, digit is 1. Now say suppose n is equal to 6. So we'll look at the prior one again. Here in the prior one, 1 is getting repeated 3 times. So number of repetitions 3, digit is 1. Now 2 is getting repeated 2 times. So number of repetitions is 2, digit is 2. And 1 is getting repeated 1 time. So number of repetitions is 1 and digit is 1. So I hope the concept is clear what your expected output is. Now let's say, let's start with the code. So let's start with the base case, okay? The base case is if your n is given as 1. In that case, you need to just return 1 because that is your output. If it is not your base case, then we'll move ahead. Now, once we are moving ahead, let's take a variable for recursion because we will be recursing, right? And we will define it as self dot count and say of minus. So now it's been defined because you are looking at the prior one as per the question. Now define a variable to track your result and we will be updating it as and when the letter is changing. And also define the count variable. Initially the count would be 1 because bare minimum 1 digit is getting repeated 0 times, right? So count would be 1. Now for I range. And how many times will you run it? Previous. So you will be running till previous. Now, what are the conditions you need to check? Either you reach till the end of the string, so length of previous minus 1, or the number of repetitions has reached to the max, like the next digit is not equal to the prior digit, that is, or previous I is not equal to previous I plus 1. So if the next digit is not equal to prior one, or you have reached till the end of the string, in that case, you will have to reset the count because the next digit is not equal to the prior digit. And you also have to update the result. Now, what your result is usually updated to, if you have seen in my example here, the first letter is always the number of repetitions and the second letter is your actual string, which got repeated. So same way, result will have string of count plus ref of I, like your actual digit which got repeated. And you will reset the count as 1 again. Now say suppose the digit is still getting repeated and it has not reached the end, in that case L. So in that case you will increment the count like you have done here in this example. So 1 and 1, it is still getting repeated, so you increment the count to 2, right? So same way, count is equal to plus 1. Now our result is getting updated here. Our count is getting updated here. We can return the result. So once it reaches the end of the string, it will go within the loop, update the result, reset the count, and then return the result. Now, I think the code is complete. Let's run and see. Yeah, so it's accepted. Let's submit. Okay, perfect. So I have explained it before, but let's take an example and see. So say suppose your n is 6 here. Okay, if your n is 6, it will start here and it will check if n equal to 1, n is not equal to 1, so it will skip. And then it will set previous equal to self.count and say n minus 1, which will be 6 minus 1, 5. Again will run into this and again run into this till you reach the base case. So when you reach the base case, it will return 1, which comes here. Now n equal to 2, it will say self.count and say 2 minus 1, which is 1. So count and say of 1. So count and say of 1, you will calculate this way. You will reset the result as 1, count as 1, and you will go in this loop. And since it is only digit 1 here, you reach the length of end of the string. So you will enter this loop since you have reached the end of the string and you will update the result. Count is 1, so result will get updated with 1 and the digit is 1. So your output would be 1, 1 and your count will get reset to 1. Now you have not reached n equal to 6, so you will go to count and say 3 minus 1, 2, and you will be looking at this letter 1, 1. So again you will enter the loop, and since this is not the end of the string and the previous letter is equal to the next letter, so you will not enter into this loop and you will increment the count as 2. Once the count gets incremented to 2, then you will write count as 2 and you have reached the end of the string now. You will write the digit here after entering into the loop. So count plus the digit. Now n equal to 4. So self.count and say of 4 minus 1, which is count and say of 3. So you will be looking at 2, 1 basically. So in 2, 1, you would start, go into the loop. It's not end of the string and the prior digit is not equal to the next digit. First letter is 2, second letter is 1. So it's not equal. So you will enter the loop. You will update the count as 1 because count was reset earlier. Count as 1 and the digit was 2. So 1, 2 will get set, and then again you have not reached the end of the string. You will circle back and now you have reached the end of the string. So it will get set as 1, 2, 1 because count of 1 is 1 and digit is 1. So 1, 2, 1, 1 and then count will reset to 1. And then again you would go here, count and say of 5 minus 1, count and say of 4, and then you will go in the loop again and it will go on so until you reach count and say of 5 and you will finally get the output here as this only. So I hope this question is understandable and you found it interesting. If yes, please like the solution, share it with your network. If no, mention in the comments what's your approach to solve this question. I'll be happy to adopt your approach. Let me know what question next you want me to solve. Subscribe to my channel for your daily updates on LeetCode questions. Thank you.